What's up, internet? My name's Ori. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. Today is Friday, August 19th. It's day 45 inside the Big Brother house, and we have a lot to go over today. We had probably the most boring 2-hour episode of Big Brother that there's ever been in the history of the series last night, but we also had a new twist that was unleashed on the house, and we're going to break everything down that we know, who is in each group, how they were picked, everything that went down on the live feeds, because it took a while for them to come back, but they did eventually give us a lot of good information. Before we jump into all of that, though, we do have another birthday message today. Psychotic Velvet, it is your birthday. How about a little birthday song for her? This is your birthday song. It isn't very long. All right, let's get into everything. Happy birthday. So, like I said, it was maybe the most boring episode of Big Brother we've ever had, and it was 2 hours long. There was so much filler in this that it was ridiculous. We saw the veto meeting, which should have been on Wednesday's episode, all the punishments that came from the veto, which should have been on Wednesday's episode. So much that they all shoved into this 2-hour episode for really no reason. Eventually, in the second hour is when we finally got the vote. Indy went home with a 7-1 vote. There really wasn't much of a surprise. The leftovers kind of went over everything the night before, and they decided that Michael would be the one to throw a sympathy vote for Indy, and then everybody else was going to be voting for Terrance to stay. But other than that, it was pretty much set in stone even before the episode went in. That's what made the episode such a boring mess, is because we knew everything that was going to happen. There was no reason, as I'm knocking stuff over, we knew what was going to happen. But that eventually took us to the HOH comp, which was a knockout style competition where the winner of the first matchup would choose the next matchup for the questions, and whoever was eliminated would choose the next one, and so on. It was one of those competitions where they would show a picture, and you had to find the sign with VIP from a former evicted house guest up on there, and then whoever buzzed in A, B, or C, whatever section they were in, would get it and move on to the next round. The very first matchup was Brittany and Terrance, which Terrance won, and oh my god, that was the longest round in the history of Big Brother. They couldn't see anything. They were squinting and looking. It almost felt like they were throwing it. I don't know, maybe they were just terrible at finding it. But Terrance was able to move on. He picked Joseph and Jasmine to go next, with Jasmine won. Jasmine then picked Turner and Monte to go up, which Turner won that one. He picked Alyssa and Terrance, who then Terrance went on to win that one as well, who then picked Michael and Kyle. Michael got that one right. And here's where things are a little weird. So the rules of the competition were whoever won would be the HOH for the inside group. Whoever lost would be the HOH for the outside group. So whoever would win this next round would automatically be an HOH. So Michael described his thought process to this later to Brittany, but in a way, he kind of screwed over Turner. So what he did was he chose Terrance and Jasmine, which guaranteed one of them would be the HOH for the for one of the groups. His thought process was, well, if I choose Turner and Terrance, there's a chance that Terrance would win, and then I would have to go up against Jasmine. And then if Jasmine won that, we would have no HOHs, and we'd be kind of screwed. So I understand his thought process on it, but really, to me, it's almost seemed like he was trying to set up for that other group would have either Jasmine or Terrance as the HOH so that they could take a shot. And I think that might be what his real plan and strategy was for it, but we're going to have to kind of wait and see for Sunday's episode to see kind of what his thought process was as he was making the decision. So he ended up taking Terrance and Jasmine, who went next. Terrance won that one, which then left Michael and Turner to have to go up against each other. Michael won, so that meant that Michael and Terrance would be the two HOHs, just who would be the inside and who would be the outside. Michael won that competition, so he is the HOH for the Brochella group, whereas Terrance became the HOH for the Dyre Fest group. After that, it went into a schoolyard pick to separate the groups, and it was like the one way they could possibly have messed this twist up, they did. It would have been so much better if they did this a completely random draw to figure out who goes where. It would have caused so much more chaos. But instead, they got to pick who they wanted in each group. Terrance, because he was outside, got the first pick. This is, again, not 100% confirmed, but it's kind of what I was able to gather between Terrance's meetings that he had and Michael's meetings that he had last night with everybody. So Terrance went first. He actually picked Turner as his first pick. Then Michael would go next. He picked Jasmine, back to Terrance, who took Alyssa, then back to Michael, who took Brittany. Then we went to Terrance again, who took Joseph. Back to Michael, he took Taylor. That left Kyle and Monte as the last picks. Terrance took Kyle, and Monte was the last pick. He did later on kind of break down his thought process. At least Michael did. I don't know what Terrance's process was for who he picked, but with Michael, he wanted to make sure he got at least one obvious target he could take. He then wanted to secure Brittany onto his side, so he took her. So that way he would have at least one really good ally. After that, he knew it was going to leave Joseph, Taylor, Kyle, and Monte. So once Joseph was picked, he was able to take Taylor, which left Kyle and Monte, because I don't think he really wanted to make that decision between the two. At least for his game, it would have been better for Kyle to be able to go to the other side. So if they wanted to take a shot at him, they could. And then if he wants to, he could take a shot at Monte, which is kind of how it all ended up playing out. The inside group, as we said, is Michael, Monte, Taylor, Jasmine, and Brittany. The outside group, known as Dyre Fest, is Terrance, Turner, Kyle, Alyssa, and Joseph. The names, by the way, if anybody doesn't get the references, Brochella is in reference to Coachella, the big music festival that kind of happens every year. And Dyre Fest is a reference to Fyre Fest, which was a complete disaster of a festival. There's Netflix documentaries, tons of crazy stuff. You don't even want to know what some people had to do to get water at that place. It was this big event that was all hyped up, and it ended up just being a terrible time. So the outside, what's their living situation like? Well, there was a makeshift kitchen that was made. They have some like freeze-dried MRE type foods out there with a bunch of canned foods like tuna and Spam. They have a makeshift diary room that was set up out there as well. I shouldn't say makeshift. I think that one's a little bit more built up. They do have 2 porta potties as well as a shower. Terrance has an air mattress he can sleep on as the HOH. Everybody else pretty much just has sleeping bags. There is a canopy for a tent they can get underneath for some cover. And then there's also the couches and the hammock, which I'm sure they'll be using as well. Turner is loving this. He is so happy with being outside. He thinks this is a great adventure. He's having so much fun. Plus, he doesn't have to be near Jasmine for a whole week, so he is loving life right now. He's very pumped about this. He loves looking up at the stars already, so he's having a great time out there. As for everybody else, I think they're a little like, we'll see how this all goes. Other than that, we can get into the meetings, because they ended up kind of happening once the feeds came back on. It took a while for the feeds to come back. It was a really long time, probably around 4 a.m. Eastern time, probably 1 a.m. Big Brother time is when they finally turned back on. Terrance decided he was going to meet with the people in order that he picked them. So that's kind of how I was basing what the order of the picks were, at least on that end. He met with Turner first, who his pitch was all about like, hey, you have a reason to put up the showmans. Say you're putting them up. It's all about the veto really anyway, whoever you want to get out. Terrance kind of implied that he wants to get Joseph out. So Turner was doing his best to kind of keep it from being Kyle and Joseph up on the block. And he suggested put Kyle and Alyssa up. And then that way somebody wins the veto, whether it's you, me, Kyle or Alyssa. As long as Joseph doesn't win, we're fine. Alyssa was next with Terrance, who then pretty much pitched the opposite of that to put Joseph up. She didn't say to put Terrance up, but he did say that he would probably put Kyle and Joseph up to Alyssa because he promised her not to. He then met with Joseph, who kind of went back to, well, put the showmances up. So it's going to be interesting to see where Terrance eventually falls on this. It could be bad. If he doesn't put Alyssa on the block and Alyssa wins veto, she takes down Kyle, Turner goes up, and it's Turner and Joseph on the block. I would see Joseph leaving in that scenario. So this is a must win for Joseph to win veto. If he doesn't, there's a high chance that he goes home. Depending on who would win the veto if he's not on the block, if, let's say, Kyle won, he might be able to use it on Joseph to save both of them, and then they have control of the vote, and they can send Alyssa home. But yeah, it does not look good for Joseph this week, who's definitely the target for Terrance in the Dyre Fest side of things. As for the Brochellas, Michael met with Jasmine first, who, well... one of her pitches, you guys are going to love this. One of her pitches to not go on the block was, oh, well, it would just kind of suck to go on the block on my birthday week. You can't make this up. you can't make this stuff up. They did talk about how apparently before the competition and before the twist was announced, before the eviction, Michael and Jasmine kind of were in the bathroom and they just kind of made a promise to each other if they would win HOH, they wouldn't put each other up. But he told Jasmine, he's like, look, I'm kind of in a tough spot. She's like, I know when we made that promise, we didn't know about this twist, so I understand. She's like, I would never ask you to put Brittany up. That's just, obvious that you're not going to do that. So that would only leave me and Taylor to go up with Monte because he keeps telling her Monte is his target. So most likely the nominees are going to end up being Monte and Jasmine up on the block. But again, it really doesn't matter. This is all about veto because if anybody wins veto, it can all change. And there's only 5 people in the group. So everything is kind of in flux and it's all about who wins the veto competition. As soon as Jasmine left, Michael immediately said, you're going on the block. When he was in the room by himself, he was very much saying, Jasmine, you're going on the block. He met with Monte afterwards, and that one was kind of the basics, right? Like, let's just get her out. We have to win veto. Hopefully the other side, they take care of Alyssa, and then we're all good. So that was kind of a very simple, not too in-depth conversation. He then had a convo with Brittany, and that's where he kind of broke down his thought process, which we already went over on why he picked certain people. He broke down his thought process on why he picked Terrance and Jasmine to go in the spot they did, guaranteeing that one of them would be an HOH. And he said, hey, if Joseph goes, oh well. And they also just said, hey, look, we do have the decision on whether or not if we stay leftover strong or if Kyle stays over there. We have a decision afterwards where we can kind of choose. I'm knocking more stuff over now. And we have a decision on who we get to choose on which side of the house we want to go with once everybody comes back together. He also said, we can cross this bridge when we get there, but we do have a chance if we wanted to take that shot at Monte. So we'll see how that goes. They also discussed that if Jasmine goes from their side, and if Alyssa goes from the Dyre Fest side, next week, Terrance cannot play in the HOH. Neither can Michael, but that would pretty much guarantee the leftovers would get to the final 7. They would actually do what they came here to do. But there's a lot of ifs in there, and we have a lot of ways that this can all play out. And who knows what will be the end goal when we get to the veto competition. So to give a quick summary of where kind of things lie right now, the targets for each side are Jasmine and Joseph. But it all comes down to the veto. I would assume the nominees are going to end up being Monte and Jasmine, and Joseph and Kyle, unless Joseph and Turner can convince Terrance to put up Kyle and Alyssa next to each other. So that's maybe the one that has the most question marks on it. But it doesn't look good for Joseph if that's the scenario. It's a must-win veto for him. I do think Turner would be okay. He's probably the safest one in that group because if it did end up with Kyle and, let's say, Turner up on the block, Terrance would probably break the tie and vote for Kyle to be evicted. If it ended up being Turner and Alyssa on the block, I think he would also break the tie for Turner to stay. But again, that's just kind of my gut reaction on it. He didn't say that to anybody, but I feel like he's probably the safest because if he can't take the shot at Joseph, breaking up the showmance would probably be his next best bet. As for the other side, it's a little bit more straightforward. Monte and Jasmine will be the nominees. If for some reason Monte and Jasmine are still on the block, then Jasmine should go home, but there is a chance that Michael and Brittany decide to take that shot. Very small chance, but it is there. The only way that could end up weird is if Jasmine wins the veto. If Jasmine wins veto, we could see Monte and Taylor on the block together, and I think Monte would be the one to go home. So I think there's really only 3 possibilities, well, I guess 4 possibilities in total on who will go home this week, depending on the scenarios. Monte and Jasmine from the Brochella, or Joseph, Kyle, and Alyssa on the other side. So I guess that's 5 in total. Half the house could leave. Yeah, what have I really told you there? But I think it kind of does break it down. And the Brochellas, Monte and Jasmine are, one of them are going to leave. I don't see a situation in which Taylor leaves. Brittany's not going to touch the block at all. Over on the Dyre Fest side, that's where more question marks are. I think Turner's the safe one, but Kyle, Alyssa, and Joseph are the most likely 3 to go. I'm worried about Joseph. But we'll see how this all plays out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below of everything that turned out with this twist. Did you like the schoolyard pick? Do you wish they did it random? Do you like the groups and how they ended up? Who do you think is going to be the one to be evicted from each group? How do you see it playing out? Let me know in those comments down below. You can also down there and in the description find links for all of my socials, including my Twitter, my Twitch, our Discord. You can come on and join us over on Discord, where if you have a birthday, you can add your birthday in there. If you got some pics of your pets, put them up there as well. It's been really cool to get to chat with you guys a lot more. And that's been the most fun part of this whole time that I've been having on YouTube, is getting to know each one of you a little bit more, hanging out with you guys on the live watch parties, which we had last night, which ended up just being us really chatting, because that was a very boring episode to get through. But yeah, let me know in those comments down below all that information. I want to thank you all for watching. We hit 3K subscribers, which when I first started doing this all the way back with Big Brother 22, when I first started making videos here on YouTube, never in my wildest imagines would I think I got to 3K subscribers, and you guys have just shown me so much support over these past few weeks. It's been incredible, so thank each and every one of you for that. If you are new here though, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, smash that thing down below, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video, you never miss a stream. I'm Ori, and I will see you next time.